Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of GrowthFit interview series. My name is Ashwini. I am growth engineer at CustomFit.ai. CustomFit.ai helps B2B companies convert website traffic to quality leads by dynamically changing website content and CTAs based on user personas and past behaviors. It's a no-code platform for marketers to dynamically create hyper-personalized experiences to lift conversions. It helps businesses to understand what their users want and how businesses can help them find exactly what they are looking for. Our today's guest is joining us from Wellington, New Zealand. He's passionate about growing businesses and have focused on early stage high growth B2B tech during his career up till date. He's involved in startup community and he enjoys helping cultivate the next generation. Let's welcome Nick Harley. Welcome, Nick, and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity.
Nick is recently working with Auror. Auror is a retail crime intelligence platform for retailers to report, solve, and prevent crime. The platform streamlines the crime reporting process and connects the dot on criminal activity, transforming how retailers can and enforcements prevent and solve crime in real time. Today, I'm excited to learn about growth strategy, people and team management, digital marketing, product marketing, demand generation, sales enablement, data analytics, automation, and SaaS B2B tech. So let's start with the session. We would love to hear about you, Nick, like your journey. How did you start? What all challenges you faced, and how did you overcome them? And Manish.
Sure. I've got quite a varied background, really, a very untraditional background. Started off in the construction industry
Oh,
way back in the day. So how I ended up in marketing, I'm not quite sure. But really, the bridge was kind of crossed when I created a B2B software company and learned a lot of lessons building that company and eventually on sold it. And then I've been in and around startups for 10, 15 years now, mainly through the marketing stack. And really, I think the challenges I've kind of managed to cross is not having any kind of education in marketing, no degrees, nothing like that. I'm purely self-taught, and I Google stuff every day, still to this day, how to solve a new challenge or get up to speed with a new technology or tool.
right. And tell us something about Oral. Like, what problems do you solve, and where you actually stand in the marketplace, and what marketing philosophy you have. Keep with the spirit.
Yeah, so Aura is like an enterprise retail platform. So there's a lot of account-based marketing that goes on at Aura.
Okay.
Lots of conferences and events for lead generation, things like that. But we're starting to get a lot smarter with our digital marketing, our lead scoring, things like that. The kind of philosophy we've got, although it's not really marketing specific, is that we've kind of taken the approach that we want to work in small teams of highly capable people. So we don't have an awful lot of people in our marketing team, but everyone who's there is highly experienced, and we find we can kind of move faster that way. Um, Certainly, me personally, very kind of analytics driven, data driven, use data a lot to inform decisions, and like to kind of make sure we're making the smartest decisions that we can possibly make.
And to do all these things, Nick, like you must be having a lot of data and research things. So, how do you research, and what is your source of information to update it in this market world?
Sorry, just missed that in there, cut out.
Okay, so to do all these things, like do all these strategies, you must be having some important data and what the study you do. But to do that study, you must be having information. So what is your source of information to keep yourself updated in this marketing?
Yeah, so the problem with data is it's everywhere. You just need to know which is the right data to look at. Um, so as with most teams, we're not really any different. That our website data is pretty key. Looking at that, making sure we're optimizing conversion rates, things like that. Starting to get a lot more involved with the SEO strategy now, building out that. Um, so yeah, we use kind of standard tool set as well. Google Analytics, Salesforce campaigns, Pardot for marketing automation, things like that. So our data set's getting smarter all the time, but we also have a lot of in-house built tools as well that track usage across the product and stuff like that.
That's I think this is a 360 degree of marketing, like SEO, imagine all these things you are trying it out to for lead generation, right?
Yeah.
And do you recommend any specific platform that can do wonders for SaaS in lead generation?
No real one specific platform per se. I think it really depends on your individual
Or
needs as a
maybe
company.
your favorite one amongst them?
Yeah,
Like,
so I was a big fan of Autopilot for managing marketing automation for a while. They've gone off in a little bit of a tangent away from um, what I believe was kind of the initial magic of that tool. So I think the one that's most exciting that I want to look at next is one called Sixth Sense, which
oh,
is a lot more on the account-based marketing um, side of things when it comes to the marketing stack. So I think that's got some real potential and should be very good for account-based marketers.
that's great. And when it comes to content, Nick, like what is your take about personalization? How it is important to show the personalized, like the people should the your website visitors should feel like you are connected with them. How it is important to you?
Yeah, I mean it's extremely important, but I feel like with content in particular, you've got to really kind of decide on who it is and what persona you're going to market to. Who does your website speak to? Who does your content speak to? Is it specific role? Is it a specific authority, like manager or VP or CIO? Things like that. And you can kind of personalize it just in voice and tone, obviously, to kind of connect um, a lot more closely with that target audience, but also using tools to be smart about that. So there's tools like Demand Base, and you could even do this with Google Optimize as well to personalize content based on the visitor, um, and that's quite important as well. As you get a bit more further down the funnel, because you really don't want to make the mistake of speaking to nobody. You really want to speak to the target persona that actually buys your solution.
So in custom fit, we actually believe that your visitor is most important. Like you should understand your visitor. That's what we are working. So that's the problem we solve. You can understand what exactly is the particular visitor's path. So when it comes to visitor, the data points is also important. As you said, user persona is important and for whom you are personalizing content. So, what are the data points you consider when you are designing a campaign? Like, uh, or you are particularly targeting a niche segment of audience, that is your ICPs.
Yeah. I think the metric that you target can be very, very different across what campaign you're doing. For example, when you're doing things like conferences and events, it's just the amount of leads you're getting from that event. Something that's a little more digital. on maybe Twitter or LinkedIn or Facebook can be a metric that's more how many impressions did we get or how many clicks. So I would really kind of recommend that people, decide up front what metric is important to that particular campaign, and then track that, because there's nothing worse than tracking something that isn't isn't actually that beneficial to the marketing funnel. It really varies on the campaign and the medium as well. If you're just purely going for brand impressions, you can measure that a lot differently to other campaigns that are a lot more further down the funnel for how many sales leads did we get, how many conversions did we get.
Okay, and like according to you, how email marketing is important? Does it have a role still in the market?
What type of marketing was that? Sorry.
Like we email marketing is
Oh,
basically a
email.
traditional one, but according to some people, like it doesn't have role nowadays. There are more important things, but according to some people, it is important till now, and it will be important in future. So according to you, what's um the status of email marketing nowadays? Do you use or
I still think email marketing's here to stay. It's hugely effective. We can see even in our data that email marketing does work. Um, the only trouble with the email marketing side of things is that open rates are usually below 50%. So that's 50% of people not even opening emails. And then there's kind of very poor click-through rates, but it really doesn't measure um, those kind of outside factors. Like, if somebody opens one of the emails and then gets cookied in a browser and then comes to your site, and then you can track that activity, that's still valuable. If somebody opens an email, clicks an email, and goes up a few points in a lead score, that's still valuable. Um, I think email has become harder, as with most marketing tactics, but it's definitely not dead at all. And I think you just have to make sure that you're doing best practices, like your subject lines are enticing for people to open your click through. See, your call to actions are relevant to the individual and personalize it. I think if you're just going with email marketing and blasting emails all over the show and not personalizing them, then that's when you won't really get much success.
that's great, and that's really valuable information. So, Nick, you have hosted a lot of podcasts, right? So, I want to understand what was your favorite one, like, which was that valuable information that you really follow till now, as your marketing strategy. That's some suggestion from or a tagline from one of your speakers, like that particular thing that was a really valuable information for you, and till now you follow that. What was
Yeah. I don't think there's anything that stands out in particular um, as one thing I've continually followed, but I feel like there's plenty of people I follow on say Twitter, like Rand Fishkin and Dave Gerhardt and people like that because marketing is constantly shifting and the technologies we use are constantly changing, staying up to date with kind of what's happening and what's working um, is very important. So I usually kind of base who I follow and what I listen to based on the particular challenges and work I'm doing at that particular time, and then just try and kind of soak up information from people out there in the community that are sharing actively for those types of lessons.
it? And like I want to understand your favorite one, like paid or organic.
It's without question organic. No disrespect to anybody who works in the PPC space, but I just feel like there's far more satisfaction that comes from finding a keyword, building content, and seeing results over time for organic. Um, it's very easy to put some ads up in an afternoon, raise some budgets, drive more traffic, things like that. Um, but the beauty of getting a machine that works off organic traffic is hugely satisfying, because you're not continuing to pay for that traffic and it just works for you forever. So yeah, organic for me is certainly close to my heart, and I do love digging into SEO tools and finding opportunities, and then seeing the organic traffic increase. And that's not to say I don't like the PPC side of things, but organic for me has got to win that.
And to get those organic traffic, you must have that online presence. So, what do you think is the most effective way of increasing a brand's online presence?
Yeah, well, it's tricky these days because there's
Yeah.
so much content out there. There's so many ways that people are competing for your attention. So it will be no kind of surprise to marketers listening, but that whole brand authenticity is something that I feel quite strongly about. Um, Having your brand stand for something that people resonate with, and kind of speaks in their language, so they want to follow that brand, because it's quite close to their own thinking is pretty key. And it is pretty challenging at the moment, and it's only going to get harder to compete for the attention of people out there, as they're browsing around. So yeah, certainly there's no easy answer to that, but I feel like you've got to make your brand connect with people, and your target persona. Otherwise, they just won't. They're not going to listen to you. It has to be personalized to your target audience.
And next, I'm coming to ABM, Nick, as you mentioned. So, how do you know which accounts are responding to your campaign and product? What tricks you follow? Like, what tricks you encounter to get the results?
Yeah,
Know the
well, I can speak to something that I've kind of recently been exploring and setting up here at Aura is, it's one thing to do lead scoring, and you can see that on an individual level. And there's probably other tools you can do this with, but by tracking in Salesforce campaigns the activity of the leads in the context, you can then roll up the lead scores into more of an account view, and then use engagement history dashboards to then see which individual accounts are contributing, and are the most active, and then which individuals on those accounts are most engaged and active as well. So that's really kind of given those data-driven insights that we were talking about earlier, into kind of getting a bit smarter around like who's engaging with what, um, and kind of putting a bit more kind of insight into salespeople's hands, so to speak.
so I don't want to stop it here, like Nick, but I want to understand last two, three questions. So I want to understand your mentor in the marketing world. So who actually, like looking at whom you actually was inspired to get into this,
Yeah,
and to whom you look up in your day-to-day life as your problem solver.
yeah, it's a good question really, because I feel like when I was in my backpacking days, I didn't really know what I wanted to do for a career. So I was reading kind of autobiographies of successful entrepreneurs, and they weren't particularly marketing focused, but I got a lot of inspiration out of people who have kind of come from nothing and achieved something. So that was kind of my first foray into kind of following certain people. And then I was at a conference in San Francisco in my early days at my last company, and we'd gone over there and decided to go to this conference, and I didn't actually know who any of the speakers were because I wasn't that ingrained in the industry at that point. Um, and it was only, a year or two later that I found that most of the speakers were kind of real heavy hitters in the marketing space. People like Rand Fishkin and Neil Patel and all these kind of people that I follow now, but at the time I didn't really know them. So that kind of led me on this thing to kind of start following all of these kind of people. Hiten Shah's another one, where I heard them speak, but I didn't really know of them at that point, and I've followed them since that point. To kind of it's like we said earlier, you want to be like a sponge, and you're just passively kind of taking in all this information to kind of guide you over time. Um, but yeah, I find following these people are great, but it's usually the links and resources that they share that really kind of end up teaching you things eventually, because they'll share some interesting insight or document or link off to some other website, and then it's just great content really. So I read content from all over the place just to kind of keep up to date with the latest marketing tactics really.
And lastly, Nick, what would you suggest to fellow marketers here, like in 2021, 2021? It's really hard to sustain, and it's really hard to take up that rapport your niche market segment. But it's not that difficult to. So, what a suggestion would you like to give here to our fellow marketers, that path they should follow, and the tricks they can encounter to be successful in this?
Yeah, I think going forward, like we said earlier, the competing for attention problem is only going to get worse, and it's very easy to be kind of all over the place and be everywhere with no real strategy. It was the case a while ago that everyone was kind of spinning up podcasts, and now podcasts are kind of overwhelming. There's loads of them. Um, and so I think it's similar with platforms like TikTok and things like that. Like they might have a lot of people, but they're not your audience most of the time. And my own personal opinion is a lot of the content that's starting to come out there on these types of platforms is quite mind-numbingly kind of I don't know. It's just definitely not going to be a B2B sell on a platform like that. So I would advise people to get hyper specific, go to the events and conferences that your ideal persona and the people that buy your software or your solution or your widgets go to. Tailor your content for that audience, market on the platforms they are on, and it's not just about being vertical specific, but it's really trying to get granular detail on who that persona is, and then being in the places that they hang out. And if you can do that and you can kind of create a bit of a mini brand that people resonate with, then it's only really a matter of time if you've got a good product that they'll discover it and start using it. But yeah, I think that challenge is going to be to rein yourself in as a marketer to really get specific on who you're going after and where they hang out, because there's so much competing attention right now. You've just got to be in the conversation with the right message.
Uh, Nick, as you mentioned, I just wanted to understand how do a person understand your that user persona or your ideal prospect is on which platform, present on which platform. So
Yeah.
you said that you market there where they are marketing, like their, the platform where they're marketing. How do someone know they are existing in this platform?
Yeah. Well, it all really starts with research. you've probably got a bit of an idea about who you sell to, but you've really got to kind of go a bit deeper and look at um, customers that we have managed to sell to in the past. What do they look like? What are the common traits about them? Um, and then you can always interview them. You say, where do you find resources and where do you hang out? What publications do you read? Um, Tools like LinkedIn ads can get quite hyper specific on targeting certain companies, certain verticals, certain industries, um, certain demographics, and so you can kind of play around with that as well with your messaging around who's resonating with what. So I guess for most marketers out there, where to start is you'll have a fair idea already based on what you're currently sell to, but go a bit deeper, have a look at the sales history and find out where did that first interaction come from. Can you talk to those people and find out a bit more about where they like to be, where they like to hang out, what podcasts do they listen to, what websites do they visit, what newsletters do they subscribe to, and then really kind of hyper target all of those.
Right, right. So that's what I wanted to understand. So I think it was a great learning session for me too, and I'll definitely try to implement these things in my strategy. And thank you so much, Nick, for joining us here today. It's really I really appreciate your time and this efforts. Thank you so much.
My
Thank you so
pleasure.
much, everyone, for joining us.
Thank you.